texts represent the impact of ideological propaganda on society. Is it positive or negative? First of all, let's take a look at those terms. Ideology is a set of sense-making ideas about how the world works. They occur when groups of people develop a set way of thinking. The longer an ideology exists, the less likely people are to question the validity of that ideology. And propaganda? Well, propaganda is a series of communications that serves to propagate or spread a particular interpretation of an event. Propaganda tries to reach a large audience via mass media to create uniformity of interpretation among audience members by using arguably manipulative techniques. So when we talk about ideology propaganda, we're referring to the people currently in power using their resources to spread propaganda enforcing an ideology that suits their needs. Now we have a clear understanding of the terms. How does Fahrenheit 451 and Bitch Planet represent the outcomes or the results of ideology propaganda? In Fahrenheit 451, propaganda is used by rewriting key aspects of history to enforce the ideology of the time. The most notable and discussed is that books are a source of pain and social anguish, and their impact should not be tolerated, and the materials themselves should be destroyed. The Fireman Rulebook states that firemen were established in 1790 to burn English-influenced books in the colonies, and that Benjamin Franklin was actually the first fireman. This rewriting of history serves to validate the ideologies of the ruling power. They further this propaganda by turning the book-burning mission into a spectacle. The main character, Montague, notes that the majority of the alarms only come at night. He speculates that this is to reinforce to the general populace the danger of books, to remind them that it is not only their duty to report offenders, it is in their best interests as well. In Bitch Planet, it is the rights and the freedoms of women that are controlled. In this dystopian universe, the ideologies of the governing body have been made law. Propaganda exists in a myriad of forms, including schools, sports, everyday life, even advertisements. The graphic novel is littered with pages of ads encouraging women to stop being so gross and fat, and encouraging compliance in the viewers. Even within the judicial system, which exists to punish those women who fight against the ideologies of their oppressors, a hologram woman provides key phrases such as, "People don't end up here by accident. Search your conscience." While in Fahrenheit 451, we see history rewritten, books banned and burned for fear they will wake the population to the truth of their oppression, in Bitch Planet, these and many other objects and materials are actually used to enforce the ideologies of the power. In both texts, it is stressed that these ideologies are good for the people. Fahrenheit 451 argues that it was the people themselves who let go of the books. It was their cries that encouraged the government to ban the books. They themselves wanted the thoughtless, carefree life that they are now enjoying without the hassles and the pain of free thought. In Bitch Planet, it is constantly repeated by those in power that they want women to be compliant for their own good, that they are doing this because they care. This is yet another example of how propaganda is used to enforce the ideologies of the ruling power as the ideologies for everyone. That they are positive for everyone, that they should be accepted by everyone, that they are good for everyone. Both of these texts are set in a futuristic world where it is obvious that the propaganda of these ideologies has been going on for quite some time. We already know that the longer an ideology exists, the less likely people are to question it, and the more likely they are to consider it truth. Why then is there a continued need for propaganda? Propaganda works best when audiences are not aware that they're being exposed to it. If propaganda is viewed simply as an everyday aspect of your everyday life, you are less likely to see it for what it really is. And why would a ruling power use propaganda to manipulate others into following their ideologies? To stay in power. After this brief look at two very different texts, it's clear that they have one very important thing in common. They are both warnings. While each uses a different medium to do so, both warn against the apathy of blind acceptance of the ideologies of a ruling power. They urge us to be mindful of even the most constant and insidious propaganda, to fight off the ideologies of people who wish to remain in power and to think for ourselves. They both do this by focusing on characters who have become aware of the propaganda that rules their day-to-day lives and who break away from the ideologies of their oppressors. Even if they are persecuted by society for doing so, their lives are ultimately better for it. And if highlighting a positive role model was not enough encouragement, both texts also highlight the potentially dire consequences if we remain apathetic.